So today we're going to start a new unit, Unit 5. Here's your Unit 5 digital notebook. If you haven't already, you need to make sure to go ahead and insert your name in the class block. And Unit 5 is on bonds. This is a longer unit. So today we are going to focus on ionic bond intro, monatomic ions, and simple binary ions. I know there's 3, but they're all 3 very short things, so it shouldn't take you very long at all to do the first 3 today. And then, of course, you can see what you'll need to be doing throughout as well. So for this first section, the intro or ionic bond intro, your topic is Intro to Ionic, and your goal is I can explain what an ionic bond is. And again, as you're watching videos, I don't pause to give you time to write. You can just pause the video so you can take however long you need to write each thing before you move on to the next. So don't forget that. I do also want to show you let me pull up an old digital notebook. So if you want to watch a video, you can press play here in the window and it will start playing. But if you want it to be in a different tab, if you click the YouTube, it actually opens the video in a new tab, so you can go back and forth while you take notes. Or you can watch it in here, drag it to the side, make it bigger, whatever you need to do to take notes at the same time. There we are. Okay, so our first definition is bonds. Bonds are forces that hold groups of atoms together and make them function as a unit or as one. So remember, if it's red and underlined, that's a vocabulary word. You'll need to highlight that or underline that in your notes, and then whatever's just underlined is what will go with it. The next vocab word is ionic bonds. That is a bond between a metal and a nonmetal by gaining or losing electrons. The next thing we need to know for this are ions. Ions are atoms or groups of atoms with a positive or negative charge, or they have gained or lost electrons, which will give them that charge. There are 2 types of ions. The first is a cation. It has lost electrons and has become positive. One way I remember that is cats are positive. If you're not a cat person, you could just kind of pretend to be one to remember this. So cations, cats are positive. And then you have anions, which have gained electrons and therefore have a negative charge. So anions are negative. So how do you tell if something is an ion? Well, all you need to do is check and see if there is a charge. If there's a charge, it'll be an ion. If it's a positive charge, it's a cation specifically. If it's a negative charge, it'll be an anion. So here are some examples. Na right here has a positive charge. So that would be a cation because it has a charge and it's positive. I has a negative charge. Now you notice those don't have numbers. If there's not a number, it's just known to be 1. For some reason, chemists don't really like writing the number 1. For me, it doesn't really bother me. So if sometimes you may see 1, sometimes you may not. It's the same thing. So since that's a negative charge, that'll be an anion. Now you have Ca, which it has a +2 charge. Since it's positive, that would be a cation. And here O has a -2 charge, so that would be a anion. All of these down here, none of them have charges, so they are just regular elements. So why would an element lose or gain electrons in the first place? Well, that is for them to be happy, for them to be stable. And in order to do that, they want to be an octet, which basically means they have 8 electrons. So here are some properties of ionic compounds. They are generally crystalline solids. They have a high melting point, a high boiling point. They are excellent conductors of electricity, and they are generally soluble, which means they will mix with water. Okay, here's probably the most important thing for ionic bonds, and that's the charges and how to tell what the charge is going to be. So if it's in this first column right here, it's going to have a +1 charge. So if hydrogen's an ion, it'll be +1. If lithium's an ion, it'll be +1. If potassium's an ion, it'll have a +1 charge. So anything in this first column will have a +1 charge. If it's in this second column, it'll have a +2 charge. So beryllium would have +2, calcium would have +2, barium would have +2, anything in this column, +2. We are skipping the transition metals. We'll be talking about that later on in the unit. And then we'll come to this column right here. Boron, aluminum, gallium, indium, all of those will have a +3 charge. So if these are ions, it'll be +3. Now this one's a little finicky. This one, you actually won't see very many ionic bonds with them, but they can have either a plus or -4 charge, depending on what they are bonding with or what element you're talking about. For ionic bonds, we typically don't have any that are in this column, so we won't spend too much time on it. But that if it's in this column, it'll either be plus or -4. The next column, so now we're switching. So here the first three were all positive. The fourth one is a positive or a negative, and then you'll notice the last three right here are negative charges. So nitrogen, phosphorus, arsenic, all of these right here would have a -3 charge if it's an ion. The oxygen, sulfur, selenium, all of those right here would have a -2 charge. And then fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine, all of these right here in the second to last column would have a -1 charge. So that's it for this section of notes. There's not a practice page for this, so you just need to make sure you had those definitions written down, what was underlined in the vocabulary words, and then I will see you in the next video.